Well, it kind of makes you wonder, right? Because we have other Marvel games that are actually pretty fantastic. They're just not based in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, after playing games like Street Fighter, even like Mortal Kombat, this game is really not that good.
Shaq's got to be like the worst fighter in the game.
One of my most prized possessions, though, is my Mario vinyl here. I got this at GDC 2007.
What you're kind of lamenting is that magic has kind of like become like just another flavor of damage, you know?
Exactly.
It's like, that's how I do damage.
The characters and the graphics pop up out of the table, can be rendered at the table's height or into the table.
So I guess the closest thing would be like hollow chess and Star Wars.
Yeah, like the Star Wars, yeah.
Alrighty, well, with all of the Marvel movies having come out, and we're well into Phase 2 so far this year.
Right.
We're into Iron Man, Thor, Captain America. We've seen kind of the typical video games that you would expect with those movies come out thus far.
Even none for Phase 2.
Yeah.
Right? Like they kind of gave up after Phase 1. They had the one Iron Man game.
Yeah.
They had a Captain America game that was mediocre. It was like a really bad Arkham knockoff.
Right.
And then they had Thor.
Like some mobile
Oh,
games.
that was the worst thing in the world.
Thor was trying to be like a God of War style,
That was an abomination.
and it wasn't very good.
No, that was not
I
good.
think
at
I
all.
beat Captain America.
Captain America was the best of that bunch.
I couldn't even get past the first level of Thor.
Yeah, exactly going into it. But now we're trying to figure out games. Are we asking about games they should be having, or do we want to look at games that we think are going to be coming down the pipeline?
Well, it kind of makes you wonder, right? Because we have other Marvel games that are actually pretty fantastic. They're just not based in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Why are we still kind of getting these third-party offshoot simple games when we clearly have developers and people interested in both making and playing these games in the Marvel Universe that can actually craft a very good experience as opposed to just kind of crapping something out real quick?
So like they kind of made, not even a mistake, because people, argue that selling Spider-Man, selling X-Men off was a mistake for Marvel. You can make the argument that it also saved the company. Similar to making those mistakes, if you call it, I'll actually call these mistakes. They sold off the licenses to a lot of these games to Sega. Same thing for some of the Captain America games. So now the interesting thing is looking at the fact that Disney owns them. Disney, over the last couple of months, has made huge cuts to their interactive division. Interactive at Disney doesn't only mean games, it also means their YouTube channels and everything else. And then they laid off a bunch of people and then went out and bought Maker for $500 million, which is confusing in its complete own right. The question is, what is Disney going to do with these bigger properties? They've been shying away from big titles. They've been focusing on mobile. But I've said it before, and I'll say it again, Batman, Arkham Asylum, and City was my favorite series of the last generation. Marvel has the best group of superheroes. We don't need to get into that argument now. Where are the games? It's great that we have the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Let's not make a game based on that. But let's make a game based on the characters that people are now familiar with in those universes. It's like everyone knows Iron Man. Everyone knows Captain America. People know who, Black Widow is and Hawkeye. Hulk had an amazing game.
He had several.
Ultimate Destruction was great. Like those games were great.
We had the Ultimate Alliance games as well.
Those were fun.
Those still technically included like the mutant characters, that sort of thing.
Right,
so.
but you could have like an Ultimate Alliance game that's just focusing on the Avengers themselves.
Well, especially considering the Avengers team, or at least their team and their acquaintances within the cinematic universe, are getting so big.
I was talking to someone last week about Bond. It's like, why do they need to keep making games about the Bond movies? Just make a Bond game that's its own thing. Like, just write a Bond movie. Like, there's so much Bond now. As long as you play with the rules of Bond, you could do something different. I want someone to tell me what type of game I want. I didn't know I wanted Arkham until it was here. So the Wolverine game was actually really good. It was based on the really shitty movie. So
it was actually better than the movie.
All the cutscenes were really bad. But the combat felt like the character. You felt like Wolverine. With Batman, you feel like Batman.
Sure.
And you just have to get to a point with these characters that you feel like the character.
Right.
And I
think
don't know if they've done that yet.
Another golden opportunity for them as they're introducing a brand new, almost universe with Guardians of the Galaxy, is you have kind of the more, what's the word, the cosmic universe of Marvel coming through in this movie. They have to introduce a lot. There's a lot of different stuff that you can get away with. You don't necessarily have to be very earthly with your game design.
No.
And so I think there's a lot of different ways that you can go with that, and who wouldn't have fun as Rocket Raccoon just blowing everything up in sight.
I'd love to see, like, let's go, fine, we don't have to go big, giant games. Go smaller, cooler digital downloads.
Yeah.
Take an indie company. Like, take someone, I'd love to see Cappy
Bro.
take on the Guardians of the Galaxy and Super Time Force.
A Super
style.
Time Force. Because they have one of the gyms.
Because it all kind of matches, right? Like,
Yeah.
it all just kind of works.
And it'd be great because then you can
that
choose
art style,
you
those
choose from
characters.
each of the characters going through it,
Yes.
and you pick out what you need for whatever situation going into it.
Just make good games. I don't think people care. I mean, it's proven with, like, the Puzzle Quest stuff. It doesn't matter. We'll play them.
Yeah.
Just use it right.
Right.
If you make an XCOM style game, I'd be super happy.
An XCOM style game, even with the Guardians of the Galaxy,
But anyone, right?
where you can like move them around, you get to explore stuff, and then like if you make it digital, then you can go in and be like, okay, here's a new planet you can go off to, or here's a
Right.
new mission that's
Well,
going to be.
in this mission, the Avengers are joining you. In this
Yeah.
mission, that you're working with S.H.I.E.L.D. and you
Yeah,
have to be
exactly.
stealthy.
And then you can tie it into the rest of everything else that's going into it.
What's it? The pinball
yeah.
games are great.
Oh, they're fantastic.
Because those tables are so well done.
Well, it's the pinball game with the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah.
I think was one of the most fantastic tables because it's such a weird experience, and it can only be done there because you're turning everything upside down, or you're like messing around with gravity, or other things that are going on in the pinball table.
But you know that the people making those tables know and love the universe and the comics, and they get it, and that's what needs to happen.
I feel like Marvel does a great job of trying to give you an experience the whole year through. I think with the movies, with the TV shows, now with the games, with the mobile games now, being able to be like, okay, we don't have something going on here, we can put this into this slot, or we can put this into this slot, or we can support what we have with other media that's out there. And so it's not like you're ever without Marvel somewhere in your life almost. And there's always like a bit of a story thread or a bit of a character. If you don't know someone, they're going to introduce it maybe in a mobile game, or maybe they're going to introduce it to you in like the comics somewhere, or maybe they're going to introduce it to you through the TV show, and you can see them again and again and again as you go through all these other forms of media.
Or do exactly what they did with the movies and put together a team, and it's the Marvel video game universe.
Oh, yeah.
And just play with it that way. Well, I mean, even look at like, you love the Uncharted games.
Sure.
Like I was saying, a Captain America and Black Widow and Hawkeye game, but it's those three in a like Uncharted style game. Like
My guilty pleasure one that I would definitely want to see would be Guardians. I want to see somebody take that and just run with it.
Right.
And besides the obvious association with being in space, something of a Mass Effect hybrid kind of gameplay
yeah.
could work.
Yeah. Oh, a
It could
Mass
absolutely
Effect
work.
style game
And,
would
you know,
be awesome.
They did it with Star Trek. Arguably not the greatest thing in the world, but
But
it's
still,
obviously it can
there's
be
a
done.
way to do everything right.
Right.
In honor of the announcement of Shaq Fu Returns or Shaq Fu 2 or whatever it's called, we went and played the original bit. I know you played the original back in the day, so I want to get your rose-colored glasses impressions first of like when, I don't know when you last played it.
I think I didn't have the realization when I first played it that it was actually a bad game because I was so young. But no, Shaq Fu was like, oh man, fighting games, this looks pretty cool. And Shaquille O'Neal was huge back then, so he was still playing for the Orlando Magic. And I was like, man, this is awesome. I have a game early, I'm gonna tell all my friends and stuff. And they like all came over, we all played it. And we had a good time with it. And it wasn't until maybe I got to college when I was this online discussing with people about terrible games, and Shaq Fu just kept coming up, and then in articles, and I went back and I tried to like, yeah, after playing games like Street Fighter, even like Mortal Kombat, this game is really not that good.
But it was kind of the thing. Yeah, I kind of had a similar experience. Like we had rented it back in the day, and you know, I played it a few times. You know, and people talked about, you know, terrible game or whatever, and like in my mind, I'm like, yeah, this is not. It was not a great idea. It was like really like, you know, Shaq going to another dimension and like fighting these weird creatures and characters and things like that. You know, but it wasn't until like me and Justin went back and played yesterday. It's like, no, this game is bad. This is like,
Right. But I think even among like SNES, you know, B-level fighting games, like Clay Fighter is way better than Shaq Fu. Clay Fighter is like,
What
you
about
know,
Primal
tournament
Rage?
killer game. I think Primal Rage is better. I think you would have a hard time naming one that is worse. Tournament Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters is like way
I always
better.
wanted to play that.
It's kind of a real fighting game.
Yeah.
You know, Street Fighter 2. These are all games. They're like, we should do one of those.
Let's
get Shaq involved.
Hitboxes were all over the place. It's like, how am I supposed to hit you? Like Shaq's got to be like the worst fighter in the game. It's like you try to do this. He's got like this flaming roundhouse kick thing, and I'm like, how am I supposed to hit somebody with this?
Yeah, like the ranges for everything. Like any like people who were trying to do anything with like with footsies and stuff. Like everything had like a preset move. There was like no variable of movement. Even like the jump.
Right.
Like the jump just kind of had like a preset like arc, and you were like kind of like screwed with that. And it was like a really high arc. There was like no, it like covered like half the screen or something. It looked really ridiculous. To its credit though, like when I first played it, like the story was really ridiculous. Like Shaq just going into like an old man's like dojo and like, hey, no time to explain. Just go through this door to this other dimension.
He's in Japan for the All-Star Games.
Yeah,
so,
the
you know.
All-Star Games always held in Tokyo, by the way. It's simple now, but back then, like a fighting game where you're like walking to your locations and you could like maybe there's like a hidden location or there's nothing like that other than just you went to fight. And yeah, the rogues like gallery of villains in that game, like that you fought like the Catwoman at first, and then
There's the Prince of Persia clone.
the Prince of Persia clone who has like the Chun-Li kick somehow. And then the main villain was what, Set Ra, like a mummy meets Shao Kahn type thing.
Yeah, but there was like two mummy characters, or at least the other guy was kind of mummy-like, right?
Well,
Beast?
Memphis is like a green dude. He has like a hoodie and like
the poor man's Dr. Doom.
yeah, wrapped up shoes.
Yeah.
He's actually pretty decent. Memphis is my favorite
He looked
character.
pretty OP.
I think Set in particular totally plays like a boss character. But yeah, I mean they had ideas if nothing else, but
Oh, they had the voodoo doll girl who like just pulls out the voodoo
that
doll and
half
stabs
elf?
him.
right, ideas is about all they had.
Yeah.
But I wonder if the new game, I think, if it's not ridiculous and bad, then what other angle can you take using the Shaq Fu name? You know, like what else does that?
Well, it's
what
funny.
else
He's
does that
like this
stand for?
grotesque neck.
Yes.
Like,
He looks
gigantic.
horrible.
It's like
on that-
I hope
that
you
model.
can headbutt really well because I don't know what else you're supposed to do with those muscles. Like,
It looked like a Nicktoons or Cartoon Network, like the Rebirth of Ninja Turtles, like that 3D
Right.
animation. It looked like that, and I'm not really a fan of that look, but obviously it's like a concept trailer, whatever it is, a pitch trailer. But the message at the end, like we promise, we won't. What this is like, we promise we won't screw it up.
No, we won't foo it up.
We won't foo it up. Yeah. I don't know. I think they need to go for that. They need to go for the ridiculousness.
But the characters seem kind of generic, right?
The ninja, the foes.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
like normal foot soldiers. Like no, like you gotta go back to like the weird crap, like the Beast and all of that. Like you gotta go all out with the character designs and just make it as weird as you can.
I guess I just wonder, like, what's the point of trying to like bring this back? Like, did they look at something like Barkley, like Shut Up and Jam, and Barkley and the guiding like RPG games, and like, hey, Charles Barkley's name's being thrown into this like.
Well, has Shaq
game.
been stewing for the past 20 years and was like, man, it's like
I
they
mean-
messed my game up. I gotta make
Yeah,
it right.
he wanted to be a movie star. He wanted to be a rapper, and he wanted to like make video games.
Like, what does Shaq Fu mean? I don't think it means anything good. It's a different kind of game, though. It's like a more, I guess, God of War or Devil May Cry type game with like, you know, a ton of moves and combos and whatever. It's like, you know, the
Yeah.
bullet points.
Yeah, I'm curious if there's anything aside from like melee combat and the name that crosses over whatsoever.
I want
what?
comedy from this game if
think,
they're gonna do it.
you
I
know-
think they have to go for comedy. I'm worried they're gonna
They gotta do
half-ass it.
Yeah, but I'm just worried that like. with
I think
the-
they're gonna go too serious. I think that's the problem.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I don't want them to go too serious. But
It's
I think
inherently comedic, you know,
Yeah.
a basketball player, like a roided up basketball player.
they said like what other than him lending his likeness, and I think that's his voice. Like, is Shaq could have any other like involvement? Did the Kickstarter or sorry, the
Indiegogo.
Indiegogo say anything about
I think they said
Involved.
more than that.
I mean,
but
I
don't
think they
remember off the top of my
mentioned he personally invested in the project. I'm not sure why they need more
that? Yeah,
money.
couldn't
I
he
guess
like just
open
fund it
up the
himself?
wallet a little bit, right? They're only.
I
they're
think
asking for what?
he is. I think this is like on top of his contribution.
Oh, he's just trying to.
So it's like getting the community involved and all that kind of thing. But it's weird.
This time we won't fool it up.
Show and tell. So welcome to my office, affectionately known as the Hoffice. I've got lots of fun collectibles in here. I'm kind of the guy at GT that spends way too much money on toys and games and fun things. One of my most prized possessions, though, is my Mario vinyl here. I got this at GDC 2007, right before my first interview that I ever got to do with Shigeru Miyamoto. He was my hero growing up. I loved the Mario games, played all the Nintendo games growing up, and when I met him, I was super nervous. So we did our interview, and in the end, I pulled this out, asked him to sign it. I was literally shaking, so afraid, but he was totally cool about it, and I have this, and it's gone with me everywhere. So I got my Mario and my little mushroom.
So we have a lot of weird and stupid conversations around this office, and one of the conversations I just couldn't let go of was our conversation about mages, wizards, sorcerers, and any other ilk that use magic, right?
Do druids count?
Hold that thought. So I just wanted to talk about like different representations of mages in games, what mages you like, what that means to you, and basically just a really dorky conversation. That's how I envision this going.
Yeah, I think we can accomplish that.
Okay.
High nerddom.
Yeah, high nerddom for sure.
Everyone has magic. The hunter, let's go to WoW, the hunter, the warrior, all of those people, they're casting magic. I know it's using rage or it's using energy if you're the rogue. Everyone has special abilities. No one's just really attacking, and it's kind of nullified what a wizard is a little bit.
And this
I think maybe rather than, you know, the specific role you want to see, what you're kind of lamenting is that magic has kind of like become like just another flavor of damage, you know?
Exactly.
It's like, that's how I do damage with this magic. You know, it's just a thing that I do to do DPS, right? Rather than, you know, having some kind of like magic. I think it's better if it's a little more rare, you know? If it seems a little more special or a little
Exactly.
more, you know?
What I really like specifically with what Final Fantasy did with the mages is they all have a distinct like calling card, right? Like the black mage has the hat, right? The white mage has the robe. The red mage has the feathered cap, you know? The blue mage typically has the mask. And I like that. I like being able to look at a character and have some semblance of understanding of who they are. And I feel like I really enjoy like the Elder Scrolls games because of the freedom they give you. But you know, when I look at somebody in the Elder Scrolls, if they're really good at magic or they're really good at fighting, they all kind of blend together.
You want it to be a little more stringent, it sounds like.
Yeah, I really like the idea of being confined to a role, right?
Well, I think in the single-player games, you tend to be more a jack of all trades sometimes. I mean, it depends on how deep character customization goes or how open or closed the game is. Kind of a weird aside, but would you consider, I mean, this came up a lot back in the day, but would you consider biotics in Mass Effect mages? And then by the same stance, does that mean the people that put stuff into what was like engineering, like the tech skills? Well, I mean, is that the same thing?
Well, I mean, it functions the same, and this is what we're talking about with like, you know, just magic is like a flavor of damage, you know?
Mm-hmm.
How do you do your damage? Oh, you know, I throw not fireball, but you know, biotic blast or lift, you know, things like that. These are magical effects. You know, there's the magic.
I guess
and technology quote.
You made me think of maybe perhaps a better way to explain it, where I don't want magic, and I think this speaks to your Mass Effect point, I don't want magic to be just a tool, right? Like I feel like when you remove personality from it and it's just numbers, that's way less interesting to me.
It's Borderlands.
Right, that is Borderlands. That's true. So I think that what I miss from things like Final Fantasy or Ultima or Wizardry is I feel like a wizard was a specific type of person. You know, they couldn't fight very well, but they were very intelligent. They weren't very sociable, you know, but they knew a lot about the world. And I think that's sort of what I'm missing. Even now I'm reading the Dark Souls 2 thread on NeoGAF. The official thread went up today, and like people are mostly just being like, okay, this class has these numbers, this class has these numbers, and to me that really
classes
bores
don't
me.
exist. I mean, you have a starting thing, but I wouldn't say classes.
No,
really
no, I
exist.
know. I'm just
sorry,
using
that thing
to
always
illustrate
kinda
a
bugs
point.
me a little bit. No, I understand.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if you ever played any of the Ultima games,
Yeah.
but you were the avatar, and you could you'd answer questions. In the early games, how you ever answered questions would make you a shepherd or a knight or some sort of wizard or something like that. The one I played a lot was Ultima 6 and 7, and it was interesting because you would have spells, and I think one of the ways to differentiate it from just being combat is you had like your level 0 spells, the cantrips, which you kind of cast at any time. They're really simple. You know, make some light, create food or something like that. Because this is back when you had to like eat in games and stuff like that.
Right.
Then like your level 1, level 2 spells, and they get increasingly more complex, and you'd have to collect like runes and certain. I always say this word wrong. Reagents.
Yeah.
So you'd have to go hunt for mandrake roots if you actually wanted to cast this spell or something like that. And it made it more involved and made it feel more special.
Exactly.
And it made those effects a little more special. But then you did have your bag of tricks, your cantrips to pull out and use as you needed to.
That's just something that's kind of gone away. You know, in old D&D, that in order to cast a spell, you had to have materials.
You know, Ben, I know you played Dragon's Dogma, right? And
yes.
In addition to having really cool magic that feels powerful and has secondary effects, like it can create platforms for you, you also, as a mage, can learn just like a levitate ability.
Right.
And you can jump and just levitate around, and you kind of have those little tricks, and you can't really engage in physical combat. You have to stand back, and you spend time casting spells. Some of the more elaborate spells, kind of rise up off the ground. It's really dramatic, good stuff.
And
that's
I'm
one
sure
of my
you
favorite.
can only reach things, some certain things.
That's one of my
way.
favorite takes on a mage.
Like
in a
I
while.
think magic is like kind of like puzzles are always kind of loosely in some RPGs like loosely fit in, and I always like when there's a magical solution or multiple solutions. Like everything again, Ultima 6, I played a ton of it. Like everything had a multiple solution. And a lot of times it was magic. Use telekinesis on a lever so you can lift the portcullis. If not, you have to send the little mouse under the portcullis to flip the switch or something like that. So yeah, it is definitely more. It should be more than combat at times. Like Final Fantasy 3, I like when you have to turn into the little frogs to enter the fortress or become the midgets to get in the little hole or something like that. Little things, but like it adds flavor to that kind of world.
Exactly.
And it makes the magic again seem more than just numbers and optimization. Because optimization is, in a way, the death of games. But it seems to be where games go, especially with the group mind on the internet.
I feel like Magic, one of its key things, right, is it should be surprising, and something that's sort of disappointed me, specifically in JRPGs, but in other games as well, is elemental stuff, right? Like, it feels like everything has been done that could possibly be done with ice being weak to fire, or water being weak to lightning.
It's been played out since 1993.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like having a mage being able to exploit enemy elemental weaknesses is just, I'm so over it. You know what I mean? And that's something that I like about Dark Souls, is I feel like it's trying to keep that element of mystery there, right? Like they keep putting new magic in and they don't tell you what it does, right? Like dark magic was mysterious to me. Hexes in Dark Souls 2 are mysterious to me. Pyromancy was initially mysterious to me. And I feel like they make it just convoluted enough where I feel like I'm doing something that I shouldn't be doing, which I think is key to what magic is.
Osmodan, Nosgoth, Gul'dan, Nox Ramus, Holy Obana.
Hey man, I'm sorry I have to interrupt and bring this up, but it's really not cool that you do that in the office.
Why?
I mean, some people have allergies. I'm allergic. I can't handle it. I'm sorry.
They're allergic to necromancy?
Yeah, man. It's the bone depth. I can't deal with it.
All right, whatever. Whatever.
We're here at GDC checking out, lots of goggles and things you wear this week. And one of the cooler things we've seen is castAR, and it's different. Probably the most different thing we've seen. I think a lot of people right now are looking at things that are very similar to Oculus, but you guys are doing it different. This is more augmented reality, right?
Correct.
So give us kind of an idea of what a user sees when they get put this on. It's hard to show you guys because it's hard to get footage off of this.
Yeah, it's very difficult to describe in a 2D medium what it's like. But the way the glasses work is there's two small projectors that project a very dim image out, but it hits a special surface called a retroreflector. And this retroreflector takes all the light from the projector and bounces it back to the user and through clear lenses, so you see right through the glasses, and you see this projected image. And it looks like a hologram. It pops, the characters and the graphics pop up out of the table, can be rendered at the table's height or into the table. Or if you hang it on this retroreflective cloth on the wall, it's like a monitor, but it's a giant monitor. You can just keep adding more and more reflective cloth, and the glasses track your head position, will present the correct image in the fabric.
In the frame, yeah. And one of the things I saw here was like this maze game where you're running around and you can kind of duck to the side to peek around corners and get real low, and you change all the angle, and it feels like you want to reach out and touch these toys that are on the table, and they're just not there. I guess the closest thing would be like hollow chess and Star Wars,
yeah.
And it gets me all geeked out, excited. So, what was your inspiration? Why is this something you felt like this? It's obviously really different and something we haven't seen before. And
it was actually an accident. So I was working on conventional VR displays where you're cut off from the world, trying to solve like motion sickness and headaches that you get from it. And I was developing this test rig on my workbench, and I put a component in backwards. And so instead of projecting into my eyes, I projected into the room. And one of my colleagues had a piece of this retroreflective material out in the room that he was using for some laser experiments. And I saw this beautiful image like projected out into the room. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I started like looking at it, and I realized that by moving the displays away from your eyes, like a near eye display, like a regular VR rig, you put a display really close to your eyes, and it can be very stressful on your eyes. But putting it out at a regular monitor distance, or like if you roll this material out on your table, it's a comfortable distance to look, and you don't get headaches, and you get to do some very interesting game interactions. And it's very social too, because you can see right through the glasses. I can see you.
Right.
I can see your reaction when I blow up your ship or something on our game we're playing, and
yeah, I mean,
not
like
cut off.
the type of thing you'd obviously want to see on this is board games where a bunch of people are standing around the table and you can move your characters around. Is there stuff like that I know you guys are really working on the hardware, but have you seen software developers working on anything like that?
So we've been talking to a lot of developers. There's a lot of interest out there from indies and some larger houses. We have Unity integration, so if you're a Unity developer, it's just a cinch. It's like 5 minutes to port your game over to it.
Wow.
Yeah. You have to tweak some things
Right.
and get like the orientation right and the right zoom levels, but it's pretty easy to develop for. We're also developing some input devices that allow you to interact in this 3D space. We have a wand, which uses the same tracking system as the glasses, so you can reach out into 3D space and you can, touch your characters and move them around and to command them to go somewhere. Personally, I want to see an RTS in this, so I circle my units and then I go attack and just click over and have them go. There's going to be a lot of interesting like tabletop gaming experiences with this, especially with the wand. We're developing an RFID grid also for tabletop gaming as an add-on peripheral that you can put inexpensive RFID tags on the bottom of playing cards or on miniatures, and the computer will be able to track where you place them on the table, and then you can render graphics around those miniatures. That's or have your stats hanging off there. They could shoot fireballs out or whatever. We can also do flight simulators, first-person shooters, just by configuring the surface in a different way. Instead of having it rolled out on your table, you just hang it on the wall like a poster. Now it's a giant stereoscopic 3D display. It's tracking your head position. So if we went home and we got this
material and we put it all over the room.
Yeah,
Can we build
crazy.
like? Can I build like a holodeck? Like, is this the closest thing that we've seen to a working holodeck?
Yeah. You could totally build a holodeck if you wanted to go that crazy with it. So there's tracking markers that you put into the room, and the glasses identify these markers. And if you place these markers in the material in the room, you'd be able to spin 360 degrees. And Unity, when you develop your game, and it will render all the time. And so if there's a piece of material there, the graphics will be there. It's pretty magical. And the more material you have up, the more
Just keep
immersive
making it
is.
bigger. Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's super comfortable to look at. And you can see your hands or your game controller.
Well, and that's the other thing. The glasses are kind of much lighter than a lot of the other stuff you've worn, because I guess, it's not trying to do as much, right? It's not trying to envelop your kind of whole senses. When can people get their hand on this? I know it was a Kickstarter and you're going to start rolling out dev kits, but when can, when am I building my holodeck? This is what I'm trying to say. When is that going to be able to happen?
So we're several months out
Okay.
on the developer glasses, and that's just going to be our projected mode of operation. At the end of the year, we're going to start shipping our Kickstarter deliverables of the glasses, the wand, the RFID grid, and VR clips. And that's one thing I didn't cover. There's a clip that goes over and makes it a near-eye display it's transparent, so you can do it without the surface. Or you can flip down some visors and it becomes a true VR experience.
Wow. So this is all one person needs to get the full
Yeah,
VR and AR experience.
Yeah.
That's awesome.